All right, so we're diving into water management in India.
Okay.
You've been checking out all those articles and reports, right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
here to kind of untangle it all. It's a huge topic. We're talking potential water crisis in India by 2050.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Big one. But good news is there's hope.
Hmm.
We're going to uncover those challenges, but also look at the cool solutions that are already happening.
Right.
For instance, did you know that like almost 80% of monsoon rain, it just flows right into the ocean,
Wow.
unused?
Mhm.
And there's one city in India that's reusing 20% of its treated wastewater. So we're going to untangle this whole complex issue and see how India can really make a water-secure future happen.
You've got some really good material here that really shows how serious this is, but also how much people are coming up with creative solutions.
Yeah.
We've got reports, we've got the legal stuff, we've got analyses. It really shows how India is tackling this huge problem.
Yeah. So let's start with the basics. What's the current situation with water management in India? It's massive, huge population, all those different landscapes.
Yeah.
How do they even begin to manage something so precious?
It's really complicated system.
Yeah.
One of the key things your sources point to is that water management is mostly done at the state level.
Okay.
It's like each state has its own rule book on water.
Hmm.
But of course, you have national policies and organizations like the Ministry of Jal Shakti that was made to oversee water programs all over India.
So it's kind of like each state has its own puzzle piece, but
Yeah.
the government's trying to make the whole picture.
Exactly. And that can cause friction, especially when states have to share water.
Right.
The Kaveri water dispute is a perfect example. That's between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu.
Yeah, that's been going on for a while. I've seen that in the news.
Yeah.
So we've got this framework, but how well is it actually working? What are the big roadblocks India's facing?
Well, that's where things get a little worrying.
Okay.
One of the most alarming things the sources talk about is over-extraction of groundwater. India relies on groundwater so much for agriculture, for drinking water, but they're taking it out faster than it can refill naturally.
Yeah, I can see how that's a problem long term. Is this everywhere or are some regions worse than others?
It varies, for sure.
Okay.
For example, your sources mention Punjab. They call it the breadbasket of India because of all the agriculture there. But the groundwater levels are dropping like crazy, almost half a meter every year.
Wow. So this isn't just some environmental thing, it affects food too. What about pollution? With so many people, keeping the water clean must be really hard.
Absolutely. Pollution's a huge worry, especially for rivers like the Ganges and the Yamuna. Industrial waste, sewage that isn't treated, runoff from farms, it's all contaminating these vital waterways.
It's like a chain reaction, right? You over-extract, you get scarcity, then pollution makes the little water you have unusable. It's kind of a grim picture.
Yeah, it shows how connected these challenges are.
Yeah.
But it's not all bad news. There are solutions, and we'll get to those. But first, we have to really grasp the scale of the problem.
Right. Understanding it is the first step.
Yeah.
And then there's climate change, adding another layer of complexity.
Right.
India depends a lot on its monsoon season, so any changes in rainfall could be a huge problem.
Exactly. Climate change adds so much uncertainty to the whole situation.
Yeah.
Your reports talk about unpredictable monsoons, glaciers melting in the Himalayas, more extreme weather like droughts and floods. It all puts a strain on water resources that are already stressed.
It's like a perfect storm, right? Growing population, unsustainable practices, and then climate change on top of it all. It's daunting. But we did say there's optimism, right? What's being done to fix these water problems? What are some solutions people are looking at?
That's the encouraging part. India isn't just sitting back and watching this happen. They're working hard to find solutions, and they're trying lots of different things.
Okay, good.
For one, the research really emphasizes regulating how much groundwater we take out. We can't just keep pumping as much as we want. We need to think about sustainability, let those aquifers recharge.
Yeah, it's like setting a budget for water. We can't overspend. So what other strategies are they looking at?
They're really focused on being more efficient, especially in agriculture.
Right.
That's where most of the water goes, you know. Even
Yeah.
small changes in irrigation can make a big difference.
I remember reading about something called drip irrigation.
Yeah.
What's that exactly?
Drip irrigation is a really targeted way to water crops.
Okay.
Instead of flooding the whole field, which wastes a ton of water through evaporation, you deliver water right to the plant roots
Okay.
through pipes and emitters.
Oh, I see.
It's much more precise and efficient.
That makes sense. And I remember something about traditional water harvesting systems making a comeback. What's that about?
Right. India has such a rich history of water harvesting. Think step wells, tanks, johads.
Yeah.
They're incredibly designed to catch and store rainwater. A lot of them aren't being used anymore, but there's a growing movement to bring them back,
Mhm.
integrate those old methods into our modern practices.
It's so cool how those ancient techniques are still relevant, like blending old wisdom with new tech. What a great idea.
Totally. And it's not just the structures themselves. It's about changing how people think about water, seeing it as precious, and wanting to save it.
Yeah, changing habits.
Exactly.
It seems like there's potential for real change, but I'm sure it's not all easy.
Yeah.
What are some roadblocks to actually putting these solutions in place?
You're right. It's a big job.
Yeah.
One of the toughest hurdles is governance. India's water management system is pretty scattered. Different agencies doing their own thing. They need to work together more, make decisions faster, and have a more holistic approach.
So it's not just about having good ideas. It's
Yeah.
about the structure to put them into action. What other obstacles are there?
Funding is always a problem. Building new things, promoting new tech, it all costs money.
Of course.
And then there's awareness.
Yeah.
People need to understand how serious the water crisis is
Right.
and be willing to try new things. Changing habits is hard. It takes time.
It's a mix of technical, financial, and social challenges. But are there any success stories? Any places in India that are managing water well?
Absolutely. And those are the stories that give me hope. One that stands out is an NGO in Rajasthan called the Tarun Bharat Sangh.
Okay.
They've managed to revive several rivers in the state by combining those traditional harvesting techniques with community action.
Wow, that's awesome. It shows what can be done when people work together to protect their water.
Yeah.
Are there other examples we can learn from?
For sure. Chennai is doing great things with wastewater recycling. They treat and reuse a lot of their wastewater, which saves water and reduces pollution.
Double win.
Exactly.
So it sounds like we are seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. We've got these new solutions coming up, inspiring stories, and people are understanding that water is important.
Right.
But clearly there's more to do. What are the key things India needs to do to really fix this water crisis?
One crucial step is getting serious about groundwater regulation. We can't keep doing unlimited extraction. We need balance, make sure those aquifers have a chance to recover.
Right.
Investing in water-efficient technologies, especially in agriculture, is key too. Drip irrigation, for example, should be the standard, not the exception.
So it's about being smarter about our choices, individually and as a society.
Exactly.
But what about the human element? Tech and rules are important, but how do communities play a part in this?
That's a great point, and it's something your sources really focus on. Water management isn't just a technical problem. It's social and cultural, too. We need to give communities the power to manage their own water. That means getting them involved in decision-making, teaching them about conservation, and valuing their traditional knowledge.
So it seems like India needs a holistic approach, blending technology with social change and respecting the connection between water and life.
Exactly. And that's where the conversation gets really interesting. We've talked about the challenges, we've seen some potential solutions, but now we need to ask the bigger questions. How can India create a future where water is safe and secure for everyone?
Yeah.
How can we use technology and innovation to help everyone, not just a few?
Those are some big questions, and I'm ready to dive into them.
Me too.
But for now, let's take a break and let you process everything we've talked about.
Okay.
We'll be back soon to explore those deeper questions and uncover even more insights from your sources.
Welcome back. I'm glad you're still with us because this is where it gets really interesting. Water management in India, it's not just about pipes and dams. It's about people and politics and, who has the power.
Okay, you've got me hooked. Let's talk about this water and power thing. What are we looking at here?
One thing that really stands out in the research is those interstate water disputes.
Yeah, the puzzle pieces.
Exactly. When those states start fighting over who gets what water, things can get messy.
Right, like we talked about with the Kaveri dispute.
Right.
What are some other potential hotspots?
Well, your sources really emphasize the need for better laws to handle these disputes. They actually point to the Indus Water Treaty that's between India and Pakistan. They say that could be a model for managing other rivers that go through multiple states.
So learning from what's worked before.
Yeah.
It's not just about the law, right? These rivers mean a lot to people.
Oh, absolutely. These rivers are lifelines for communities. They're part of their culture, their religion. They hold so much meaning. When water gets scarce, it's easy for those tensions to boil over.
It's a good reminder that water isn't just a resource. It's a part of life, culture, identity. And that makes me think about fairness. Are there certain groups that are hit harder by water scarcity?
That's a really important question. Your reports actually talk about how privatization, making water a business, could make inequality worse.
Yeah, I can see that.
If water becomes something you buy, then only the people who can afford it will have it, and the people who can't, well, they suffer.
Right, the rich get richer and the poor get, well, thirsty. Are there any real-world examples of this happening?
Yeah, the reports mention the tanker mafia in Mumbai.
Anchor mafia?
Yeah, these private water suppliers, when there's a shortage, they jack up the prices, and people have no choice but to pay. It's really exploiting the situation, taking advantage of people who are already struggling.
It's rough. It sounds like India has to walk a tightrope, trying to develop their economy, but also make sure everyone has what they need.
Exactly. And this is where the conversation has to go beyond just practical solutions. We need to talk about values, about what kind of society India wants to be.
Right.
Do they want water to be something everyone has access to, or do they want it to be a luxury only for the wealthy?
Those are tough questions, but they're important to think about. So, any glimmers of hope? Are there people out there working towards a better system?
There are, and they're what give me hope. One amazing example is the East Kolkata wetlands.
Wetlands.
Yeah, it's incredible. They naturally clean and recycle a huge amount of Kolkata's sewage. It's a vital service for the city, and it also helps the environment and supports local people.
Wow, so it's like a natural treatment plant. Much better than some expensive, energy-guzzling facility. Any other examples of people working with nature like that?
Definitely. The sources talk a lot about protecting and restoring wetlands. They're like giant sponges soaking up water during floods and then releasing it slowly during droughts. And of course, those traditional water harvesting systems we mentioned before, they've been working for centuries, and people are starting to realize how smart they are.
So we're coming full circle, back to those ancient techniques.
Hmm.
It's like learning from the past to help us in the future. So we've covered the challenges, the solutions, the power dynamics, and the need for fairness. What's the big takeaway here? What do we want people to remember?
I think the most important thing is this. Water in India isn't just something to manage. It's a reflection of how Indian society works.
That's deep.
How India deals with its water will determine its economy, its social structure, its ability to survive in a world where the climate is changing.
Powerful stuff. It means the solutions aren't just about technology or policy. It's about changing how we think. Seeing water as something precious, something to respect, and something we all need to share. Okay, we're back for the last part of our deep dive on water management in India. I'm feeling, I don't know, kind of a mix of worried because the challenges are huge, but also hopeful. Seeing all the cool solutions and people who are really trying to make things better.
It is a complicated situation, that's for sure. But that question we asked earlier about using technology and innovation to make a better water future for India, one that's sustainable and fair, I think that's really the key here.
Okay, let's break that down a bit.
Mhm.
When we say technology and innovation, what are we actually talking about? Is it like fancy gadgets and high-tech stuff, or is it something more basic?
It's definitely more than just gadgets, although those can be part of it. It's more about looking at water management with fresh eyes. Being open to new ideas and ready to try tools and strategies that can help us do things better, more efficiently, and sustainably, of course.
So thinking outside the box, challenging the old ways of doing things.
Exactly. And your sources, they actually give us some really interesting examples of what this could look like. They talk about things like, IoT sensors, satellite imagery, even AI.
Wow, high-tech.
Yeah, to help monitor water better, make irrigation more efficient, and reduce leaks. Imagine sensors that tell farmers exactly how much water their soil needs.
That's cool.
No more wasting water, bigger harvests, or using satellites to track water levels in reservoirs and aquifers so we can make smarter decisions about where the water goes.
That sounds like a game changer. It feels like we're on the edge of a whole new era of water management.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
But how do we make sure everyone benefits? Not just the people who can afford the fancy new tech.
That's the big question, and it's one we have to get right. One way to make sure everyone benefits is to make sure everyone has access to the technology.
Right.
That might mean government help with the cost, community ownership models, or open source platforms so anyone can use it no matter how much money they have.
So it's about sharing the benefits of technology, making sure no one's left out. But technology is only part of the answer, right? What about people and culture and how we think about water?
You're absolutely right. Technology is just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used in good ways or bad ways. The real change comes from within, from shifting our values and behaviors, making water conservation a priority. using water responsibly, and making sure everyone has access to it.
So it's about changing hearts and minds, not just technologies. That's where education comes in, making people aware of the issue.
Absolutely. We need to build a culture of water literacy where people understand how valuable water is, the problems we're facing, and what we can do about it. This can start with kids in school, learning about the water cycle, how to conserve water, and how to be responsible for this precious resource. And it can spread to communities through workshops, campaigns, initiatives that give people the power to manage their own water. And it needs to reach the government, too, with policies and regulations that encourage saving water.
It sounds like a big effort involving everyone working together. Are there any places in India that are doing this already?
There are, and they show us that it can be done. For instance, remember Tarun Parat Sangh?
Yeah, an NGO in Rajasthan.
They're a great example of combining traditional knowledge with modern methods, bringing those water bodies back to life, and giving local communities the tools to manage their water sustainably.
Right.
And there are other innovative projects using apps and online platforms to track water use, educate people, and encourage water conservation, especially in cities.
It's inspiring to see these ideas actually working,
Yeah.
making a difference. It feels like things are changing. People are waking up to how important water is and realizing we need to do things differently.
Yeah, there's definitely a movement building, but we have to remember there are no easy answers or overnight solutions. Solving India's water problems will take a lot of time and effort, constant innovation, and everyone working together.
So what can our listeners do? We've given them all this information. How can they be part of the solution?
Everything counts. Every little thing you do can make a difference. Start by paying attention to how much water you use. Fix those leaky faucets. Don't take super long showers. Water your plants efficiently.
Good tips.
Support groups that are working on water conservation and making sure everyone has water. Learn more about the problems and solutions yourself and share what you learn with others. Talk about it, raise awareness, and let your elected officials know this is important to you. Because water isn't just a resource, it's a responsibility we all share.
Well said. And that wraps up our deep dive into water management in India. We've explored the issues, the challenges, and the reasons to be hopeful. We've seen how technology can be a powerful tool for good, but only if we're also working towards fairness, sustainability, and empowering communities.
It's been a really interesting journey. Hopefully our listeners are leaving with more knowledge, some inspiration, and a sense that they can be part of making things better.
That's what we hope for. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the issues that matter most.